I come here wearing my very nostalgic Little Mermaid t-shirt talking to you about nostalgia baiting. Because you know what? I'm a very nostalgic person. I think being a millennial, zillennial, whatever you want to call me, I have a lot to say about this topic because I'm a very nostalgic person. You can just have one look at my Instagram page or just maybe my YouTube page. It'll give you an idea of what kind of person I am, how nostalgic I am, how freaking emotionally attached I am to literal media. And you know what? I'm not ashamed. They do bring me happiness. Let's dive into nostalgia baiting. Little disclaimer, this is just pure opinion for the sake of discussion. Don't take things too seriously. This is one thing I learned from life. Never take things too seriously because you're gonna get wrinkles on your face. That is proven fact. So I think we all know what nostalgia is, but nostalgia baiting is basically when a marketing, whatever media strategy tries to use things from the past to make money, but they do modernize it in the way so that it's more relatable to the audiences in hand. Because if you just bring fresh Y2K things from back from 2000 and just bring them as they are here, I don't think it's gonna show as much love as it does on TikTok right now. And I wanna say nostalgia baiting or just reliving older times is not a new concept at all, and in my opinion it's always going to be the case. We're going to be continuing this. You're going to see Gen Zs when they're like 50 dancing to TikTok and doing those little dancey dances. This is going to be a part of history. Everything we do on media is going to be a part of history that will be forever stuck with us. There's always going to be nostalgia coming back. But if you ask me, the most I've noticed it is in 2023. Now that could be because I was posting a lot on my TikTok page. People are noticing what I'm posting about, and what I'm posting about is very, very, very nostalgia focused. I think it's just really the year that I felt it the most. I felt like the Y2K fashion is coming back. The Y2K flip phones are back. There's literally Samsung flip phones that they were made before 2023, but they became famous in 2023. I've actually tried the flip phone myself. I ended up returning it for technical reasons, but it was a really nice phone while I had it. Funny thing is, I've never even owned a flip phone and it's still nostalgic to me. This is the funny part, and same goes with all those TikTokers. Nobody has owned a flip phone in their entire lives, but somehow it's nostalgic to them. Make it make sense. But I am talking about the Gen Z TikTokers. The older generations are also very nostalgic people. They are extremely nostalgic people, and maybe you've heard it through your parents, your uncle, your aunt, whatever, maybe even your grandma. There is always a phase in time that is ingrained in your head and you would love to relive. And you can see that very clearly when, you know, your parents are like, oh, we have this college get together, we're all like older now, but we want to meet up and just see, like, catch up and stuff. And it's like they know these friends of theirs from like 30 plus years ago. And to me, that's crazy. I never understood it until like at the age that I'm at right now. I totally understand. And even our parents had shows that they used to watch that now they would love to rewatch and relive. And my parents have rewatched and relived some of these shows. And I'm trying to relive my nostalgic life too, because let's talk about it. Why? First of all, it is comforting. It brings back some things that we already know and we've experienced. It's nothing new. We know what to expect. It's like we're in the bubble. We don't have to get out too far. You know, some reboots or recreations might be slightly different, but there is always this element of expectation. You know what to do. And I think the most important thing that makes us really fall for nostalgia baits is definitely the emotional attachment. And since we were kids, we have developed this emotional attachment to a literal video. I kid you not. It's a video, it's a picture. It's obviously all calculated at the same time, but it is something that we want to relive because it is part of us. It's in our hearts, in our heads. Now, some of the examples soon in like 2030 or something, I don't really know. I don't know the cycle, the life cycle of these things, but ultimately there is definitely a vibe in 2016 that we all know, you know, we all know that vibe, and that's gonna come back for sure. And of course, there is the very, very apparent nostalgia baiting, and it's the recreation of movies, TV shows, readaptation of stories. Ultimately, if you think about the Disney movies, the cartoons, the original ones, those were actually adaptations from books. So in a way, it's still an adaptation, so it's not 100% original, but the animation aspect of it is original and it's what made it popular. And because of its success, now we are trying to, well, not we, but the companies, the publishing companies are trying to recreate those nostalgic vibes and, you know, hopefully get those fans who used to like these movies to watch them. And some of the examples are definitely the Disney recreations, the superhero recreations. I would say Deadpool movies for sure are nostalgia baiting, especially the latest ones. I am not a movie connoisseur, but there's a whole bunch of them. There is a big one though in 2023, and it was Barbie. I think that one really hit us in the right target when they showed us all those imageries, those ads, and the Barbie merch and the dolls and the t-shirt. I fell for it myself. I bought a t-shirt. So obviously they are pulling the right string. And yes, of course, there is non-Disney ones. And I think the thing that inspired me to make this video is definitely the Winx Club reboot coming up the end of this year. As you can see, I am excited, but once again, there is an important thing to talk about, this nostalgia baiting method. And of course, there is a very complex way to look at things, because nostalgia baiting doesn't always have to be like, oh, there was a movie called The Lion King, now they're recreated into live action. It actually goes a little bit deeper than that. Sometimes it's elements in the movie, for example, bringing the 80s vibes in Stranger Things. And another example that I've actually personally noticed is music videos. We are going back to the more blurry looking, square looking videos, something that I was a little bit shocked by, but I guess it's the Y2K vibes. It's coming to music videos as well. And you know what? The strange thing is, I like it. I think they're doing a really good job. It does look like a music video coming from the early 2000s. So there is something to be said about that. The thing we need to ask ourselves is, when does nostalgia baiting actually works? AKA, they put the bait and we eat it up. I will say flip phones definitely hit. Y2K fashion in general, definitely a hit. But if we talk about movies, I feel like this is where things get a little bit mixed. Some movies, we are digging it up. We are loving it. It's a different type of vibe, but we still like it because of the nostalgia factor, or maybe because the story is good. This is something that I can't fully understand myself, but it's just always the fact. Sometimes the nostalgic factor just kind of takes over. You can't really tell, do I really like the show or the movie, or is it because it's nostalgic? As a Winx Club fan, I'm gonna have a hard time distinguishing that, probably. For example, there is a lot to be said about the Barbie movie. While they had the right vibe, the right look, the right equipment, the right environment, I love the set of the movie. It looks amazing. There's not a bad thing to say about it. There is something that is a little bit different and not very nostalgic to me, and it's definitely the message, the theme. It was a bit darker and deeper, and I'm all for it. I think we should have movies that are really telling of important topics, especially in modern times. But as a little girl who played with Barbie dolls, I was expecting a little bit of a dress-up situation, a little drama, like those Barbie shows. That's what I was expecting, personally. Maybe that's too shallow of me, but I think a lot of people might agree on this. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Now, I can't really speak on the Star Wars aspect or the Jurassic Park or the Matrix. Can't really say too much about these shows, or movies rather, because I've never really seen the originals, or maybe I've seen some of them, but I don't have a strong opinion on them. That'll be something for you to discuss, but I do think that their ratings, they can say quite a bit. They can say a lot, and I don't need to watch or rewatch any. But ultimately, we know that nostalgia baiting works is when there is something a little bit fresh about it. It's a recreation of an existing show or movie or whatever media is, and there is some inspiration added, there is some extra things, there's a new meaning behind it. So in other terms, the Barbie movie might have actually done a really successful job at modernizing a simple message, a simple Barbie thing where it's supposed to be a whole shallow dressing up and put on makeup, and then now they just twisted it into making it something deeper. I guess if it was a show about girls dressing up and just talking about drama, maybe it wouldn't have had any good ratings, honestly. Who's to say? And another thing that would work, in my very humble opinion, is passion. I think you can really tell when a movie or a show has a lot of passion into it. Even if you're gonna be recreating the story word for word, when there is passion and you really feel involved and the creators feel involved, and if the creators are feeling it and they are listening to the fans and they are understanding their goal here, which is to simply relive something, bringing the real existing magic as much as possible, this is when it would work. That is my opinion, however. Some people might disagree on that part. Imagine you want to rewatch a show, but you just want things to be more modern. A lot of people who want to watch the old Winx Club show, it's just like 2D for them. It's too low quality for them. This is just the example. So watching like a more modernized, high quality 3D, whatever the kids watch these days, really, that might make them more into it. And I think you can definitely see passion in some of these projects throughout the years, and you can also see the lack of passion in other projects. Let's talk about when does it not work. You can't just throw the bait and expect everyone to jump on it. So there are times where publishers, movie makers, they make a piece of nostalgic show, but the bait doesn't really quite work as they thought. In fact, they get the opposite reaction. And I think this is mostly noticeable when, number one, the change is forced. You are forcibly changing it for the sake of being relevant. And I don't want to say too much, but you'll notice a lot of the Disney movies that are coming out, the reboots, recreations, whatever you want to call them, there is a negative attachment to it, and you can read some of the reviews as to why for yourself. I don't really want to say anything. I haven't actually seen these movies, so I don't even know what to say, but you can definitely tell when something is forcing a type of change just to be relevant. And another thing is when this recreation is lacking passion, it's hollow, it's just simply trying to use a form of nostalgic media just to get your money and move on with life. This is very obvious. You can see that all the time. A simple example is the Ghostbusters recreation. This is just what people are saying online, the 2016 Ghostbuster reboot, where it fails to capture this essence of the original film. And I think this is a good example where the creators are heavily depending on the nostalgic factor and not emphasizing the story or making it worth the watch. Why do companies nostalgia bait? It's for the sake of success, making money. Of course, we all know this is the reason. However, it's also a safe option. They already know that this Mean Girls movie was one of the most successful movies out there, so why not try to recreate it? It might not be as successful, but who doesn't know about Mean Girls? That's right. Just the fact that commercially it's very known, it's gonna get a lot of people to watch it and check it out, and you're gonna be at least curious. Heck, I'm not huge on Mean Girls, but I kind of want to check out the movie. It is simply the safest way to make a movie. You already know what to expect. People are already aware of it. You don't have to start from scratch. Frankly, it could be such a lazy thing to do, but if you're doing it right, it's not gonna feel so lazy because there's just a lot of energy, a lot of compassion, and a lot of just listening to what fans are saying and researching and finding innovative ways to make it more unique. And of course, the results of did you do a successful recreation of something that's nostalgic? Well, you can just create merch out of it. And we saw that with Barbie, where there's a lot of merchandise, but it goes a long way with other recreations as well. Heck, shows like Winx Club, which we are getting the dolls before the show is released. I don't like, do you understand? Mind you, this is a tactic that every company does, but it's just kind of crazy how that type of marketing does work. In fact, I'm gonna be buying those dolls. What do we expect to happen? At this point, it really hit me in 2023 how nostalgia is back and we're gonna be reliving things that are from 20 years ago or whatever the case is. What's gonna happen in the next few years, the next 10 years? In my opinion, nostalgia baiting is always going to be present. It is always going to be a thing for as long as humans exist because we humans are very nostalgic creatures. I do think that a lot of movie makers are going to be a little bit more, maybe slower, maybe a little bit more aware of the audiences because the audiences, frankly, we're just going to be more critical. If you keep repeating the same thing, you're just not going to get the sales. We're just going to stop watching. And we've seen that happen with some of the movies that are out that are just clearly void of passion, void of storytelling, just literally depending on the nostalgic factor. So I think a lot of companies are going to take a closer look. They're going to try to do things a bit differently. They're going to expand on research, on figuring out better storytelling, hopefully not using AI. I wouldn't be surprised. I personally encourage nostalgic content. I love nostalgic content. I thrive on it. However, I also want some new things. It doesn't hurt to do a spin-off. I think spin-offs are something that a lot of shows and movies should explore. Winx Club, for example, could do a spin-off just on a specific character's parents' planet, for example, like Domino before it was gone. Just a little something. If you're absolutely out of ideas, just why don't you explore that? You have a lot of characters. Now, I get spin-offs could be a bit tricky, but if you do it the right way and you tap into the right fan base, you tap into the right marketing, there's a lot of possibilities. That is if you want to depend on an existing franchise without being too unoriginal. Or too repetitive, I guess. But at the end of the day, I think nostalgia will stay alive. We're all gonna eat it up, and hopefully those companies are taking note. I wanna know, what's your favorite nostalgic movie or show or comic or video game or whatever it is in the comments, and do you think they did a good job by recreating it? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching my video. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this topic. I think as a very nostalgic person, there is just so much room for discussion on what's gonna happen next in the world of nostalgia. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!